Cool. All right. So walk me through what you got and where I can help.
Yeah, so my wife and I we have two kids.
Okay.
Um my son Jackson, my daughter Joelle. So Jackson has autism,
Okay.
and we've been just walking this journey of trying to figure out like how do we introduce this to him like as a kid, like, hey, you have autism spectrum disorder, this is why you have these nuances, this is how
Yeah.
this is why you do XYZ. And we were looking for resources and just couldn't find anything that we really thought uh, just told a good story to introduce this concept to him. So that led us to embark on the journey of writing our own children's picture book, a fictional story about Jackson taking a group of kids on a field trip to a children's museum, but introducing all these concepts to the reader, where a parent could take this book and use it as a resource to introduce autism to their child.
Okay.
Um, so in January we wrote the book, and then through a company called Reedsy, um,
Yep.
was able to connect with a marketing person, developmental editor, an illustrator, and right now we are 7 pages of the 17 spreads, rather,
Yeah.
done with like the illustrations. So
Okay.
getting ready to launch the book sometime in August, September-ish.
Okay.
And I was just talking to Austin. We were in Austin, Texas, I guess a couple weeks ago, and he mentioned you, and we were just talking about it. And he said, "I'll connect you guys, and it'd be a good resource."
Um, yeah. So how much did he tell you about the background? We did a lot of kids' books.
So a little bit, not a ton, but he said you were in that space.
Yeah. So we started a children's book company end of 2017, and we exited to Scholastic just about 2 years ago now.
Wow, wow.
Um, and the way to think about us is we were marketers who happened to sell kids' books.
Okay.
So we were moving like 10, 12,000 books a day, all D2C. And so, yeah, so our third year, we were the 10th largest in the country. So we moved some books. No
Wow.
retail. Amazon was just blocking and tackling, like brand bidding.
Yeah.
And so we know a lot about, so I know a lot about books and kids' books. Um,
Sure.
so first, let me ask what your goals are, and let me lead you a little bit because it changes the conversation in terms of the advice and strategy and so on and so forth. Is the goal that I want to turn this into a business that it could be a lifestyle business, but like I want to turn this into a business that makes money? Or is it like we found this problem? We create this content and we just want to get this book out there. And think you can also think about it like one book versus like 3 books or 6 books or 10 books in a series. What is
Yes.
your goal?
So, I mean, I would have to say both, but let me tell you why. Like, my initial heart behind it, and especially my wife, would be just, this is a problem. We need to find a solution. Let's get this out there. Um, Now I have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I was looking for, a channel for that. So
Yeah.
this to say that I would not want to see this turning into something where, eventually it could be a series of, so the book is called Our Amazing Minds. It's got four
Okay.
characters. So I would love to see it turn into a series. And then we started it under Our Amazing Minds Publishing. So I would love to see like neurodiverse books being launched out of this brand.
Okay.
So both. I don't know if that
All
helps or
right.
not.
So let's start with what it takes to run a business in this space.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm going to give you one man's opinion, all the caveats, all that stuff. Take it for a grain of salt. You're going to have more questions as we move on. You're friends with Austin, or related to Austin, right? I
It's
mean,
my brother-in-law,
yeah, yeah.
married a sister.
Yeah, so you can certainly hit me up with questions whenever. So the biggest challenge with books is well, there's a bunch of challenges. So let's just run through them. The first is you need traffic on those books. You got to run ads somehow, some way, and Amazon ain't gonna be it.
Yeah.
Super crowded space, very hard. We gave it the old college try, brought in consultants for shit for probably over the course of a year, and we
Mhm.
just couldn't get it to a level where it was actually material.
Yeah.
And when you look at, and we'll talk about Amazon and why first, but like if you take a look at the big publishers, what are they doing? What's their goal? So they're in the business of acquiring libraries, people with a shit ton of content, and they want to sell 1 to 5 books every day, but a lot of fucking books.
Mhm.
And that's how they make it work. And so like you can't just like double your budget on Amazon, because Amazon not only looks at what you're willing to spend on the ad side, but they also calculate your conversion rate on it, because they make money on the processing and fulfillment, basically,
Yeah.
right? It's hard. It's not impossible. It's just more challenging. The other thing is if you're on Amazon and you're going to sell a book in general, and we'll talk a little bit about kind of the angle that you have. If you're just a cute kids book, super hard. There's fucking a million. Maybe, maybe your son likes trucks, right? And it's his 5th birthday, so you're like, children's books, 5-year-old likes trucks, and then you see some, and then you go look at the reviews, the cover, and you pick a couple and you go.
Yeah.
Very different than somebody that is in like romance novels, which is like a fast selling, I didn't know this till we got in the business, but it's like fast moving vertical. And so like romance novels are a throwaway for Costco. So
Mm.
like women will walk in and they'll buy 5 books, let's say, and they'll read like a chapter or two and be like, I just don't like it, trash can, and they'll go to like the next one. So it's like very high turnover, or personal development like Austin's doing, right? Like it solves a pain point, you find that pain point and you buy that.
Mhm.
What I do like about the uh, sort of the angle or the reason why you're doing it is there is a niche of those people. My cousin is severely nonverbal autistic. I think he's coming up on 30 years old, so I'm very familiar with the space. So that's one. So you need to be off platform, which would be Facebook or TikTok, is basically or Instagram. It's like that's it.
Mhm.
The pro is that for the most part, children's books are an impulsive buy. So the Jones family has a child with autism. They think it's great. They just
Mhm.
go and they buy it. Book costs $10, $12, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
right. So like what you don't have is you don't have an efficacy issue and you don't have a really long consideration issue.
Yeah.
Right. So like, is this supplement going to help me? Is this guru going to help me? Is this book going to help me? Like you just don't have that.
For sure.
Now, here's the hard part. The hard part is if it costs you at scale to print in, let's call it the US and use round numbers. China, you can probably get books for, well, I don't know about today. I don't know what it costs, but let's call it 25 cents. You can get them printed with some volume domestically for like $1. So you got $1, you're going to charge $12 for this book. You got shipping and fulfillment, that's going to cost you $8. You should charge something for shipping. I have a whole thesis around shipping, by the way.
Okay.
You can probably charge $5 for that. So $12.95 is going to be the highest you can charge for a paperback. So you're going to be at 13 plus 5 in shipping, you're at 18. You have $1 out and you have for printing, and you have $8 out for shipping, let's call it. So you're at 9 on what I say, 18? It's 13 plus 5. Yeah. So 9 and 18. You have $9 in margin. Now, if you were running ads on Facebook and you were paying $1 a click, you need to be at a 10% conversion rate to come close to breaking even.
For sure.
You will not be at a 10% conversion rate. So the secret there is you have to get your average order value up, which means you need multiple books. And if you have it in a series, now, so this is what we did. So we had a bunch of different funnels and stuff, but the big one that worked for us, it was like top 10 kids books about a thing. And then you run them through a listicle that's like 10, 9, 8, 7, always start with the highest number, which forces them to scroll down to see number one, versus if
Yeah.
they see number one, like you're not forcing them to see the rest of the books they would be buying. And so like they miss that whole consideration piece or whatever.
For sure.
We do this on all, and so I own an ad agency now again. So I do this every day.
Got it.
And so, really, like when you think about where the work comes in, you're like, okay, so I need at a minimum 3 books,
Mhm.
and you probably will not be able to scale it because your costs go up as you, right? So like you have your core audience, and then you kind of have the next audience, and so like it just gets your costs actually go down, but so does your conversion rate as you sort of expand your reach, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Um, the most important thing with books, if you do build it into a business, is cover testing.
Yeah.
So if you look at a book, like as a book is an ad and there's like different ways to run ads and stuff like that. But like if your cover doesn't click, you are dead in the water. And so if you have a good cover and a good ad, you could sell a book with blank pages. Now
Yeah.
people would return that book and they would never buy from you again and they would talk shit on you and whatever, but like you could sell that book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what we did is before we even wrote books, so like if you were going to build a series, this is what I would suggest. You come up with your angle. So this one is a field trip. Maybe it's like, maybe there's an angle around how do you interact with siblings at Christmas?
Yeah.
How do you interact at the park? How do you interact at, I don't know, school, like whatever, church playground, like whatever it is, right? And
Hmm.
then sort of what's the lesson? So when we think about the angles, we think about the why. And so the tighter you can get on the why do I care, the better your book will do because now that book is set up to niches. So for
Got it.
example, you're like, I have this book about autism and it teaches people how to speak to their children in social settings, blah, blah, whatever it is. Autism is here. Your book is still this wide. How do you get it to like how you have a child with autism do a thing or
Hmm.
act in a certain way? And so you kind of niche it out, right?
Got it.
And
Yeah.
the way that I think about it in my head is I always think about like an older woman at one of those folding tables at Costco. What would she say to you to get you to stop while your wife and kids are in the car and you're running to the back to grab a gallon of milk? She's
Mhm.
like, I have a book about autism. Are you interested? And it depends how urgent it is, like urgent, like how much of a rush you're in. But if she's like, I have a book about autism for boys who are 5 years old who have this one particular issue, if you have that issue, you stop,
Yeah.
right? It's marketing, sales. That's all it is,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So what we would do is we would come up with different ideas around all sorts of things. Temper tantrums, bullying, just whatever. We would come up with these ideas. And then what we would do is we would do what we call a multivariate cover test.
Okay.
So we would come up with 3 to 4 backgrounds. The title of the book actually doesn't matter, but we would have a subtitle with that's the why for kids who are angry all the time for like some right, so that's the why.
Yeah.
And then we would run multivariate testing, which will cost you about $300 and just in Facebook ad spend, and
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
run lead ads, so at least you get the emails, and then you look to see which variation is the stickiest, and that's your cover and
Hmm.
that's your
Okay.
title. And then from there we would have the book written, and from there we would have it illustrated.
Got it.
So we were de-risking the cover.
Got it.
Bad cover doesn't sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and we, yes, you spend money here, but I can't tell you how many people approach us for publishing. We had like this one year, I didn't count it every year, but I think we had 32,000 submissions. People are like, publish my book, and whatever.
Wow.
A lot of those people will have 5,000 hardcovers sitting in a box, plural,
Yeah.
boxes in their garage of books that do not click and they cannot move.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so that's the business aspect of it.
Hmm.
And so then you're like, all right, so if I'm going to turn this into a business, what is it going to look like? You will not get rich selling kids' books.
Hmm.
So also know that.
For
So,
sure.
so if it's a business, it's a lifestyle business.
Oh,
And
for sure.
yeah, and so you're like, all right, cool. Can I make like a couple, can I make 10,000 bucks a month or whatever if this is moving? Probably, right? So you can add 6 figures to your bottom line, but you got to spend and do all that. And we had it set up so uh, when we would, this is what we did when we test a book. So now I have a book that's done. So then what we would do is we would put it on Ingram. And then if Ingram Lightning Source is what we're on, I actually can't remember the difference between Lightning Source and Spark, but same shit. You put your book up, they list it on Amazon and all these different places and Barnes and
Yep.
Noble, Target, and whatever. Amazon's all that matters, just so we're clear.
Yep.
Um, but if you do that, if you put this is an important piece. Books operate differently than any other category on Amazon.
Okay.
So Austin sold on Amazon. You probably know friends who sell on Amazon, and these are the rules of engagement. Books are different because Amazon started with books, and so they have separate rules. So,
Okay.
for example, You cannot create a regular Amazon listing for a book and run ads off of that listing like you can t-shirts.
Hmm.
So there's hacks around this. The hack is you set up your listing on Amazon, do that first. And that allows you the controls to do like the long 3-line titles that you see for things, right? Which matter for organic, for SEO.
Yeah.
And same thing, right? So you put it up there. But then what you do is then you also put it in KDP, and then KDP will have the same ISBN as the book that you just created this listing for. And what you
Okay.
can also do, and so by the way, so this book is up here. Ingram is going to fulfill the physical copies. And then you're going to set up the ebook version, and you're going to run ads off of the ebook profile, off of KDP, which you're allowed to do.
Okay.
Hardcover and paperback sit in draft. And so now you can advertise on Amazon.
Got
Now,
it.
if you are running off of Facebook or TikTok or whatever, for us, it was 22% of our book sales came off of Amazon, only brand bidding. I didn't want somebody to hijack when they would come in and type in the title of our book and their book showed up, ours did. And we would always win and our prices were lower because like they were clearly looking for that book, which means they're more likely to buy and so on and so forth. There's also a whole process for getting reviews and all of that. And that's like later, once you're set up, we can go through it. But now all of a sudden you have these like winning books, you put them in effectively a bundle, and now you're like, buy 3 books for $30. You buy 10 books for $97. Those were the winning prices. We tested on book pricing, like on single books,
Yeah.
like $2.95, $4.95, $5, $6, $7, $8, like all the way up to $29.
Yeah.
And so the winner was $7.95 and $12.95. They made you the same revenue per click. The problem
Mhm.
is you can't discount a $7.95 book.
Yeah. Some at full price
Yeah,
though.
it's impossible. So
Yeah.
$12.95 is your number. If you were only selling bundles, what we did is we raised the price of a single book to $14.95 so that we could price anchor. So one book was $14.95, 2 books were $25.95 or $24, I can't remember, and 3 books were $29.95. What do people buy? They buy the 3 for $29, or maybe it was $27, I can't remember. But you price anchor. Some people are going to pay $14,
Yeah.
whatever. But most people are going to go, dude, I can just get these 3 or all 10 for this other. You're running off of perceived value.
Yeah.
And then you just got to come up with those ads. And then there's like add to a page, top 10 books about whatever, and then it goes to the cart and they go and they buy.
Okay.
Never free shipping. I talk about this in marketing all the time.
All right. That was a big question I had
Never.
was
So
shipping.
let me tell you why.
Okay.
You go to buy 3 books for $30. You see the ad, you click, you go, you look, I'm interested. You go to the checkout. You have a 2-step checkout, which means put in your shipping information on the front, your email, your phone number, and then you go to the next one and it tells you how much your shipping costs. You now have that lead.
Yeah. Okay.
And that person, do you buy if you see the shipping is $5? Probably, by the way. So the mistake that people make off of shipping is they think that the shipping price needs to be actually what it costs them to ship. That's wrong, because it's
Yeah.
going to cost you $8 to ship. So it's just additional revenue. So here's what's even better. For those people who said, I'm not buying this book because I don't want to pay for shipping, you have an abandoned cart email.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
still have the opportunity. So we ran this test with 2 different CFOs who came into the business. Both
Yeah.
came from ecom, and they both said you need to run free shipping. And I told them they were fucking wrong. The last one, but I was like, I appeased them. They're new. I was like, all right, let's run a test. I'm telling you how it's going to end. But okay, we'll do it for a few days.
Yeah.
And I knew that difference was 16 cents a click, which if you're paying $1 a click, that's 16% lift in revenue.
Yeah.
On a thin margin product, that's material.
For sure.
And that's per click, not per order.
Oh,
Right?
wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So, because you have a second bite at the apple. And what's crazy though, this is just in human psychology, a lot of guys, the customers, so get a run like they're so dumb. So people just like are so dumb the way they think. So if we're going to sell like 10 books for $100,
Yeah.
oh, and we would raise the pricing based on the books. So like if you bought 3 books, it's like $5. If you bought 6 books, it's $7. If you bought 10 books, it's $9. Still doesn't cover our shipping costs, but like if you're going to pay $100, like 9 is okay, right?
For sure.
So we would hit them with like a 15% off discount code in the abandoned sequence. More people choose the free shipping than the 15% off. Right.
Yeah.
Because they're dumb.
Oh, wow.
They're so fucking dumb. They're so dumb. But whatever. They're just like free. So free is better than less expensive, even if less expensive saves you more money than free.
That is so funny.
Yeah, it's so crazy. There's like a million of these like little things where like, and then what happens in marketing with free shipping is that people get it in their head that you just need to offer free shipping.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna not buy that book if shipping was $10. You're like,
Hmm.
that's crazy. And maybe it's not $5 for one book. I can't remember. We still did $5, but or $5. What if it's $2.95? Do you not buy over $2.95? Of course you buy.
Yeah, for sure.
You just made $3. So why not do it? Right. And
Yeah.
so people just think about shipping the wrong way. So anyway, so so that's how you test your covers and your angles. And so you don't move forward with a book or an angle until you know.
Got it.
Otherwise, you pay the writer, you pay the illustrator, you buy some inventory, and you end up with a shit ton of books in your garage that you can't move.
Yeah.
All right, what other questions do you have?
So one of the things that we're navigating is having a hardcover and a paperback.
Yep.
And the issue with Amazon KDP is the 70-page limitation on hardcovers. So we were
Hey, how long is your book?
it is with everything like the inside covers and everything, probably 40 pages.
Okay, so that's right. I can't remember the exact number, but I think 18 spreads was the right number for us, 36. So by
Yeah,
the way, funny story.
17 pages.
Funny story. We for a long time, nobody in our company had children. And I have a 8 month old now. So like I was in the whole book business, no kids.
Yeah,
So we have some of the books and I've read the books, and there was a common critique that we got. They wanted their books to be shorter
really.
because when they sit their child down at night to read, they want to be done with the book and maybe go to another book. And so I was like, oh, just like more is better,
Yeah,
but not if it's a nighttime reader. And
got it.
so, and then as you grow and you shop pricing and stuff, so like the way that the paper is cut and whatever, we only did square books because it's easier. The first ones were wide because I thought that it felt richer, but you have a tremendous amount of paper waste. And so
Hmm.
those books are wildly more expensive. The
Okay.
other nice thing about square, and you're going to be too far along in your current illustration. I don't know how you're doing it, but I'll tell you what you shouldn't do as you continue to move forward.
Okay.
So we were like, oh, I want to open up the book and I have beautiful art across both pages. You probably haven't had this happen yet because you haven't placed the copy, but there will be certain pieces of art where it makes it very hard to place the copy to make it legible.
Hmm.
So you have to do like a white drop shadow behind it or whatever. The easiest thing to do is left, right, art on the right, copy on the left, and then you just create like a frame or some type of, not architectural, like,
Yeah.
there's something, right? So like we had a Halloween book and it was like we had some pumpkins and candy corns at the bottom and we had like spider webs in the corner, right? But then the
Yeah.
copy is really easy to see. And then you can do like a soft pattern, think of it as like a wallpaper, but like very translucent to like make it feel richer.
Yeah.
And you never have the copy issues.
Hmm. Okay. That's good to know.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the hardcover and paperback, if you put it up on Ingram, then they can order whichever. So, oh, let me go through the testing piece because this will touch upon that. So we would make the book, right? So we do the cover testing, we have the whole book made, we make the book, we drop it to our email list, but that is fulfilled directly from Ingram. So they order on our Shopify, Ingram ships it direct to the customer.
Got it.
Those books, I'm going to guess the numbers. We had volume discounts and whatever. I don't know. Let's call it $250 a paperback, $450 a hardcover. It's expensive if you're moving 10,000 books a day.
Yeah.
Right? Our hardcovers cost us $2 domestic, and paperbacks were $1. They're cheaper than $1, but that's good math.
Yeah.
So then what we would do is if we had a winner, only then would I go buy inventory. So the
Got
way that we ended up in this was how do I decouple risk and I'll pay for it at every step of the way, because if I get it wrong, it's very expensive. What we also knew on the cover testing was any book that was over $3 a lead, out. Not going
got
to
it.
scale.
Yeah.
If you end up at like $1.50 or $1.25, that's just fire.
Got
Not
it.
guaranteed, but pretty certain that book is going to move.
Got it.
And so what we also did, because of the way Facebook works, like it wasn't one instance of each one. So we did 4 of each and then we took the averages. Because I don't know how much you know about marketing or Facebook, but like the internet's a big place. So if
Mhm.
you're hunting and 5 of you guys go out, 4 of you guys go out, and one goes here, 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 and the deer is here. This guy goes out, finds the deer. He's like, best place I've ever hunted in my entire life. I'm gonna go back and drink all your beer. You guys are fucked. And then
Yeah.
this guy has to hump it over here, no deer, and then he's got to go find the deer over here. This guy,
Yeah.
right? And so when your ads go out, they go out like this. And so you'll have one that's at like $1 a lead, and you'll have another that's at like 11.
Mm.
So just because that person went to where the deer happened to be. And so when you do it, and it's a really low budget, so we run them at like $5 a day. So
Oh,
20
wow.
bucks a day per event. Yeah, very low, because in marketing you also need time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like $5 a day, and then you'll start to see the ones that are just shit, and you're like, you're out, you're out, you're out. And then I have these, and then if you want more separation, you let it run longer. What we would do is we'd like push it to like 10.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then there are those that were just so close, and then you just go with a gut check. But if your cover is coming in above 3, or you're coming in at 7, or you're coming in at 8, that book is dead.
Yeah.
Don't write it, don't illustrate it, don't print it.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah. And so that's how we did it.
So
All
that
right.
$25.50 was the sweet spot. I mean, that was what got y'all fired up to move a book.
Uh, yeah. So if we got like our best books were like $1.50.
Got it. Okay.
The only thing I'm thinking through in terms of your pricing, although we did a lot of social emotional, so our TAM was like a little bit bigger than yours.
Mm-hmm.
So because you're more niched out, it may be a little bit more expensive. And so like you would then just kind of have to, I don't know, it may have to adjust, but there will be variants, I can promise, that are going to be much more expensive than the others. And like, I don't know, if you're at 10 on autism and another one's at 4, that 10 is out. Unless you need to fill it in and you're like, it's the 8th book out of 10, don't care. When people buy 10, they buy off the first 3.
Mm-hmm.
The rest are a deal. So I
Yeah.
think about like socks. So I used to work on Wall Street and I wore suits every day. So I wore, I had 3 color suits, 4 color shirts, 20 ties, and I wore colored socks, right?
Yeah.
So I'd go on Amazon. I was like, I need a 6-pack of, colored men's dress socks. And I would see this pack and it's a 6-pack. And I'm like, oh, I really like these two. These two are okay. I may even throw these other 2 away. But
Mm-hmm.
the perceived value is so much less expensive. I buy all 6.
Got it.
And that's what happens.
That makes complete sense. Okay.
I got time for one more question.
Yeah. So the question I have is, and you kind of answered it earlier, but with IngramSpark pushing to like, the Books a Million, the Barnes and Nobles, whatever, are you saying that don't put a lot of energy into those other places? Like Amazon is king?
Amazon's king. 80% of all book sales for retailers come off of Amazon.
Got it. Okay.
So by the way, like, oh, I need to get in Costco. I need to get into Target. I need to whatever.
Yeah.
80% of their sales come off of Amazon.
Got it.
20% come from everything else. So, but how do you get it up on Amazon? You either have a huge catalog or you're moving off platform to your Shopify store. People are like, I don't know you. I don't trust you. I'm going to go buy on Amazon, look at the reviews, let them fucking buy and
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
more, by the way.
Okay. All right. That's great advice, man. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out with me today and just giving a lot of wisdom and insight. I appreciate it, man.
You're going to have questions, hit me.
Okay.
So happy to help.
I'm
All right.
sure I will. So I appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
All right. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Yeah, you too, man. Bye.
Bye bye.